WCLN 1170 Radio and Cable Channel 16 are pleased to present We Should Know, hosted by J.W. Simmons, an upbeat, informative look at people, places, and issues facing our community. This education-based analysis of issues will remain positive and informative as we consider closely what we should know.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. We're coming to you on site from the Coharie Tribal Center right here in Sampson County, North Carolina. We're talking with three folks that I want to introduce you to that you're going to want to know not only as we're talking to them, but in the future as well. And I'm going to start right in the center with Greg Jacobs. He's a citizen of the Coharie Tribes and serves as tribal administrator for the Coharie Inter-Tribal Council, headquartered right here in historic Eastern North Carolina. Is a graduate of Clinton High School. Studied at East Carolina University, graduate of the inaugural cohort of North Carolina Native Leadership Institute at UNC Chapel Hill. And you oversee the day-to-day operation. One thing strikes me, Greg, is that you've been recognized and awarded the title of Elder of the Year by the North Carolina Native American Youth Organization. That's pretty impressive within itself. Thank you for being with us.
Yes, thank you for having me.
I'm going to segue to my right here, and Brad Brewington. I think a lot of folks, when see Brad or hear that name, is going to know him because he's known around the state for cultural involvement, but he's also co-founder of the Smoky River Drum Group, renowned performing artist. Brad is one of the most dedicated, cultural involved Coharie tribal members to our youth as well as elders. Brad, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
An old friend of mine, Philip Bell. Philip, we kind of go back a long ways. I remember talking to you quite a bit, but you've been involved in this for some time as well. Coharie, Lumbee, Native American, a graduate of UNC Pembroke, 34-year career with the United States Department of Agriculture. That's pretty impressive. Coordinator for the Great Coharie River Initiative. You and I have talked about maybe doing something like that in the future, just focusing on that. You volunteer with the Coharie Tribe of Sampson County, oversee debris removal and operations in the rivers of Sampson County, supported by the tribal cultural programs and engaged in economic project development. You work closely with tribal master gardener and resident horticultural staff with community garden efforts. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Needless to say, all three of you gentlemen are very busy people. I want to start the show today and back up to that piece of Native American heritage. The governor's proclamation this year recognizing North Carolina as, and there was two pieces of that proclamation I want to read. It's quite a lengthy proclamation, so I'm not going to read it all, but in the whereases, there was two of those whereases stood out for me, and it says, whereas the area known today as North Carolina is located geographically on ancestral land that has long been called home by indigenous people. The other whereas most preserve the rich history of American Indians to continue building a brighter future for North Carolina and all the people, which includes maintaining robust government-to-government relations with tribes and urban Indian associations. When I look at that proclamation and read that, it gives me a sense of importance and understanding that we are talking, as we talk to you guys today, representatives of what this continent was and how it has evolved over time. And I'm gonna start with you, Greg. What's your sense when you think about American Indian or Native American Heritage Month? Some folks use the word indigenous people. Give us just your...
I think I can start out by coming from a great sense of gratitude that the story's been told, the true story of the indigenous people that was here with European contact. Mm-hmm. A very organized people that band together in an organized way to take care of the whole. Mm-hmm. We still maintain that structure today. We like to think of self as self. Mm-hmm. We have board of directors, publicly elected leaders that come together to develop strategies to take care of a whole. history dictates sometimes that the Native American population, which is small today, it was invisible, especially here in the South. So to hear our governor make this proclamation in Native American Heritage Month makes us very proud that the public can see our worth, know that we're still here, and we've been here for a long, long time. This is the only place we've been. So, so that is, it's a sense of pride that my indigenous heritage and self-worth is being identified to the public.
Brad, I'm going to segue to you. You do a lot of things with youth, especially in the art form that you're involved in with music, not only Native American music, but music in general. What is your sense that you get from youth today? Do they get this richness as it relates to Native American history?
There's about 50% that do. They get it. They understand how proud we should be, you know, that it's a sense of belonging, a sense of identity. The other 50% is why I do what I do. So, you know, they can understand and know who they are and know where they came from and things like that. So.
I think the thing that strikes me is that idea that you just mentioned is for folks to understand this heritage word is critically important because that does identify your roots and where you came from.
Yeah. Culture makes us who we are. It makes us live the way we live. You know, my mom and dad, they don't dwell in the culture per se, but they do grow vegetables and they keep they self-sustain off the land. That's part of our culture too, you know. So everybody dwells in the culture, they just don't know it yet. And we got to bring that to the light.
Absolutely. Philip, it's a perfect segue for you. He just made that easy. You've worked with USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, for 35 plus years. You still work in that area of ag and understanding the environment itself. Help us understand the tie and the learning process that Native Americans give us and the connectivity with our earth and what's going on.
Well, I think that stems from a childhood of growing up, you know, in the river here, growing up on the farm. We sharecropped with Mr. Henry Van on this farm that's right behind the school here. And just, you know, that connection with the earth, that connection with the river taught us to be interested in preservation of such. And today, you know, looking at how the earth is becoming, how the world is becoming with pollution, with all sorts of contaminants and different things that are going on. I don't know. We just the Coharie tribe has taken a position of one of trying to make those bad things go away. For instance, we're doing debris removal. We had an opportunity to work with North Carolina Department of Agriculture and with the County Soil and Water Conservation and Friends of Sampson County Waterways to put together a debris removal operation. And that has worked well in cleaning out over 100 miles of river in Sampson County. And that's not just for flooding issues from our perspective, but it allows opportunities for our young people to be able to go out in the rivers and to explore, to recreate, to go fishing, to enjoy them. And it's working out very well. So our folks, we're trying to instill that in our young folks. I think they need to be more engaged in that operation, and it's happening. We see a big change in some of our folks because they're getting out in the rivers more, and we're seeing good things happen because it's increased visibility of the tribe across the landscape in the work that we've been engaged in. So it's been a plus and really good opportunity for the tribe, I think.
We talked a little bit off camera about the importance, Brad, of engaging youth and getting them involved in things, and some of the things that Philip was just talking about. How do you pull those people through music to get to that point where they can actually see that river and that stream and that eagle maybe, or that particular thing that's going on that's part of all of us?
Yeah, okay, so us as indigenous people or Native Americans, we have a spirit that calls out to us, okay? And when you hear something traditionally, you can feel it, you know, and that makes you want to get involved and engage in it. And through that kind of stuff is how they're going to get to the river. It's how they're going to learn how to make drums. It's, you know, how they're going to learn how to sing, how they're going to learn how to dance. So that's what me and my guys use it for. You know, we just use it as a look at us, you know. And then when you do look at us and you come around the drum, you can ask Mr. Phillip. He can feel it too, you know. Mr. Greg can feel it. You know, anybody that sits around that drum with us can feel it. It's a spirit, it's strong, it's powerful. And that's how we try to get them to come in. We try to get them to come in through the drum. Culture heals, okay? Mm-hmm. If you have problems and you have things going on in life, learning this culture can help you, because the culture teaches you to be kind. It teaches you to be humble. It teaches you not to dwell in drugs and alcoholism. It teaches you all these things to be an upstanding citizen. So that's what we want to do.
You know, I think what we're talking about here is you're going to hear this throughout this show as we talk about it. And Greg, the critical piece for me is some things that Brad just touched on, that sense of personal value that exists within ourselves, particularly as an example that Native Americans demonstrate on a daily basis. When we come back from this break, I want to kind of go back to you and let you kind of expand on that a bit and discuss for us how we collectively, that maybe is not part of the Native American society, how we can help move that forward. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned. We're talking about Native American Heritage Month. We'll be back in a moment.
If you run a business, you need sales. To get sales, you need customers. To get customers, you need exposure. Let our team of experts craft and produce the perfect video ad to reach your intended audience while making the most of your advertising dollars. Call 1-800-706-6538 or visit starcom.net to contact our Star Communications production team and get your business moving to the next level.
Folks, welcome back. Wishing those on there. I want to thank you for being with us today. We're coming to you from Star Communications TV Channel 16, WCLN Radio, originated right here in Clinton, Sampson County, North Carolina, going out to all parts of the state and the world. We're talking about Native American Heritage Month, and we're talking with Brad Brewington. We're also talking with a friend of mine for many years. I keep telling people that. They're going to think we go back to we were children, I guess, Phillip. But Phillip, you've been, I guess, involved in some aspect of in history of Native Americans for some time, obviously being both Coharie and Lumbee. I want to come back, not just focused on Phillip Bell, but come back to you, Greg Jacobs, as kind of as your role, I guess, as administrator for the Coharie Intra-Tribal Council. Give us a picture, because we're sitting in a facility here that folks have a lot of memory about. I mean, it used to be Sampson Community College way back. It actually built the origin of that huge campus now that's out there on 24 in Clinton. But this facility has historic value, and it was a school for a while. And now it's an information center and an education center. But tell us what your role is and what this facility means. And then I want to segue back to some of those things about educating folks a bit more.
Yeah. The school, originally called East Carolina Indian High School, was built back in 1942. Before that time, the Native American population of Sampson County had nowhere to get a 12th grade education. Back during segregation, there was the black school system, there was the white school system, and being segregated, there was no funds available or a school system supported by the state for Native American children. However, in that time, education was important to us, and we knew it was the gate into the future. Our families back then, before 1942, would actually tend crops. And the yield and the financial yield off of those crops, they would pay a school teacher, whatever they could find. They would use the old churches. They would use the person's home to educate our children the very best they could. So this is a monument of positivity that catapulted us into the future by this high school facility. Now, mind you, it was so important that Native American children from 7 counties around Sampson County actually came here. It was so important that the families here in Sampson County would keep the children from Bladen County, Columbus County, Person County, Cumberland County in their homes so that they could go to this school. They would take care of them like they were their own family. But it was that importance. It prepared us, it gave us more education, but it also prepared us to get into the colleges and further education. And it was progress for Native American children. I went to school here to the 6th grade. Matter of fact, my office is my 3rd grade classroom. So I can feel the spirit of those teachers. I can feel my fears, my happiness, my performances up on the stage here that we're actually selling in this room. I can visually envision all the little children, all the little brown-skinned children running up and down these halls, fighting each other and playing. But it was also a stronghold. During those times of segregation, you had designated places that you pretty much felt safe and secure. And this school was the center of our community activities. And we felt safe here. We came together and we planned strategies to develop us into the future. This school is a happy place. This school is worth some attention by our state government, maybe some road signs, about what it meant to Sampson County and the education of Sampson County citizens. And as you were speaking, after integration, it was used as the first Sampson Technical Institute. So it has great value. As I travel a lot of times and I go different places, when I get back to Sampson County and I see this old school, I know that I'm home. It's a monument of love. It's a monument of security. It's a monument of good things in this world.
Well, one of the things that also I want to mention is that the idea of the Coharie Intertribal Council, your leadership in that role allows you to really reach out all over the United States. I mean, you and I have talked about off camera your recent trip to California.
Yes.
And a lot of these things ties together. So this is a much bigger picture than a few counties here and some people are in North Carolina. This is a huge dynamic for this whole continent.
Yes, self-governing and our government, much like many tribes all across the United States, we unify each other. We come together for the common good, especially the indigenous populations, to develop being a part of the whole entire government system of the United States. A collective voice so that our needs and our wants and the visions of our ancestors can be realized and considered by our national government. So it's nationwide. Our efforts here and the Coharie tribe is very involved and very interested in intertribal collaborations, us supporting other tribes, them supporting us, and rather than being divided, being unified for the power of that collective voice.
Philip, I sit and listen. Somehow I kind of get intrigued with where Greg's going with this, but Help us further that feeling of how important that past is, that history is, to not only where Native Americans are today, but where we all are today.
I was listening to Greg, and I couldn't help but think, there's a lot of important places in everyone's bucket, in everyone's lives. Your churches are important places. The Capitol is an important place. For the Coharie people, this is the cornerstone, or one of the main cornerstones of the community, in that it's where, like Greg said, was a place of education, but a place of safety, a place of togetherness, because people would come here to join and to be together and to plan and to do different things. So that educational part, that having somewhere that you could rely on was important to our people. That gave us that base that we need to manage all the other complexities in life, and we could come back here, as he mentioned, to feel at home again.
Brad, how do you reach younger folks today with what we're talking about as it relates to maintaining that sense of not only integrity but future? How do you reach them through art and music?
I write songs that are for my people. Greg, Mr. Phillip, the things they've been through, I have never been through, So that makes me prouder. And I teach the kids to be proud because of what their parents and grandparents had to go through for them to be able to do these kind of things. Greg couldn't do it. He's always told me that, and that breaks my heart that he couldn't do the things that I get to do and be Native American the way I'm Native. I can do. I'm free to be Native American, but they weren't back then. They couldn't go out in public and be Indian. So I just try to get. It's hard to get through to them because they're living life. They're running around playing, having them a good time, but you just got to sit them down and you got to talk to them. And like I said, 50% of them is going to pick it up and 50% of them is going to run around and play. They're going to keep running and playing. But one day, my goal is to know they don't have to jump into it and get in there, but if there ever come a time that they wanted to, they would have the knowledge to do it. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I approach it. I don't push them to it. I don't try to make them do it. I just talk to them, I teach them, and if they ever want to do it, they got the knowledge, they know who to call to get help.
And that's, to some degree, a pathway for them. That piece of music, whether they participate in it, hear it, or observe it, I'm hearing from you that's a pathway for them.
Yes. If, any kid that's around anything all the time, he'll start doing it, or she'll start doing it. My son's 2. He's been around me singing and dancing since the day he was born. He knows how to grab a drumstick and grab that drum and start singing. He don't know what he's saying yet, but I'm doing what Daddy's doing. He puts his regalia on. I'm doing what Daddy's doing. That's all he knows. When he gets older and his mind develops, that's when you can teach. This is why we do this, son. We do this for the people that couldn't. We do this for the people that can't. We do this for the people that can't get out of their chair but want to be here. It's all a prayer.
I think that's critical as we go to this upcoming break here. I want to come back and whichever one of you guys want to touch on this, but I recall reading something in literature, and my first reflection on it was with Native Americans, and the term was used, sacred ground. And I want to kind of get each one of your opinions, and again, we can go anywhere we want to, but get your opinion on what that phrase means. What does sacred ground mean for a Native American today in today's society? So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come right back, and I hope we can pick up on that if you're willing to travel with me on that one. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back in a moment. We're having a great day talking about tribal America, talking about Native American history and heritage. We'll be back in a moment.
Eastern North Carolina is a beautiful place where we gladly choose to call home, and we strive to provide the best communications services. STAR is committed to improving communications to all our service areas because we want to improve the communities where we not only work, but also live. STAR Communications. We are neighbors serving neighbors.
Let's get out of here.
Protect what matters most in your life with security from STAR Communications.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Thank you for being with us today. If you're listening to us on the radio, we're obviously coming to you from WCLN 1170 AM. That's where you're tuned to, STAR Communications TV Channel 16, and that airs on Tuesdays at 2:30 at simulcast, and then Tuesday afternoons at 7 p.m. and Thursday at 7 p.m. on the TV channel. And we're talking today with Philip Dale, Greg Jacobs, and Brad Brewington. Guys, when we went to break, we've just gone down all kinds of roads here, but we're still kind of dealing with that connectivity piece and that sacred ground piece. I want to kind of open that door and kind of walk back a bit on that and circle back to some of the things that we've discussed in the first two segments, and just toss it out to either one of you that want to expand on those things that you would like as a Native American that can raise your hand and say, I'm part of this great heritage of Native Americans in this country, and here's some things I would like folks to understand about our history, about what we are now, and about what our capability and capacity is. And I'll toss it to any one of you.
I hear where we're going with this thing, but the ultimate thing on my mind and my essence of being is on the spiritualism side. We as Indigenous people were born into families that our security blanket was our spiritualism. I was taught from day one, and I teach my children and they teach their children, is that there's a power greater than our own that helps guide us, that protects us, that loves us, that fills us with compassion, that fills us with forgiveness. History wasn't always kind to Indigenous people. However, as Indigenous people, we have the knowledge to know that regardless of what happened in the past, is that it is important that we hold on to our ability to love. I can tell you a little story about an article I read the other day, and it was one of the European explorers that came over here. And he wrote it in its manifesto, and I could relate to it. In describing the Indigenous people that he came in contact with, he said, here are people that live in a Christ-like manner. He says, every day of their life is just a way of life. He says, without ever having read the word. And I can feel that spirit of love and compassion for all mankind. And I'm so happy to say that I was born into a community that my neighbors and my family and our churches, we all feel that way. That we got to love one another, but we got to love all mankind, and we got to set that example. And I think that's what's going to help make the world a better place. Leave some information for them to expand on it. But this drum, I sat with the young men. This drum was important as it identified us as Indigenous people. That drumming is in honor to God. The chants and the singing is in honor to God. The dancing is in honor to God. At our powwows, that arena, it's sacred. It's about integrity, ethics, absolute truth, how you treat your fellow man. And I think that's made us the resilient people today. We might couldn't say that we were wealthy in a financial way, but having that inner spirit of recognizing that there is a God that created us and all things, and us to remain humble before them, it makes us all rich. So with that,
I'm going to take, because I just feel a very great sense of connectivity with your comments, and I want to kind of segue that to Brad and Philip. Are we able to take what Greg just explained so eloquently, I think, that sense to everyone and explain how we're all connected to that sacred ground that we all sense is there for each one of us? And I know, Brad, you talk to, simply because of being an artist, you talk to folks a lot of times that are, very creative thinkers. Yeah. Just let's talk about that for a minute. I just, from your heart, what do you feel?
Sacredness for me is a historical thing, like the river. If we didn't take care of the road and the highway, how would you go get your groceries? How would you get to your cousin's house? How would you go have Christmas dinner with your family? Mm-hmm. That's what the river was for us. The river was our source of, you could say income, but like trade value, going to get trades and food and getting to this location when we needed to be there. That's how we got there, And this generation looks at it as, oh, that's the river. And keeps riding by it, oh, that's just the river. Hope it don't rain too much. It might flood and tear up my garden, It's a nuisance to some people, but not to us, it's not. It's a sacred ground. Our ancestors rode that river. That's the way they got around. They lived on that land. It's sacred land. This land out here is sacred because we do the things that our ancestors did on that land. We do it on this land, so this is sacred to us. The drum is sacred. It's prayers, like Mr. Gregg said. Each song is written for the people. It's prayers for the people up to God. Eagle feathers are sacred because it's the highest flying bird. They took our prayers up to God, Yeah, he could hear us, but that was just their significant way of acknowledging that there was a higher being. And yeah.
From my perspective, it has a spiritual connotation to it. Mm-hmm. You take this place right here. There's a lot of good Christian values that's come out of here. A lot of sacredness is here. Same thing with the powwow grounds. Same thing with the river. Give you an illustration. These young men, when we started the Great Coharie River Initiative, one day they had a song that they were practicing, and they got in the river and they found some what they call beaver sticks. We were tearing out some dams, and they started beating in the water the song that they'd been practicing. Now, these young men, I don't know if they know it or not, but it was like a revival down in the river for me. I've been to a lot of church services, and I have never had the hair stand up on the back of my neck like it did that day. And it was just, there was this feeling that I can't explain. I think Greg was there too, but it was just it was a spiritual being. Now that, in my opinion, was sacred ground. What was more important, a few weeks later, I was at a meeting, and there was a gentleman that was in the meeting, and he was a white man, and he was saying that he was in the river that same day, and he said that he could hear the chanting down the river. And the more he listened to it, he said in a few minutes he could feel it when it came by him. Now, that's what he said. Mm-hmm. So if he said that, then he felt something that we felt. And to me, that's sacred ground. When you have something that happens like that brings out the spirit in what you're doing or something that you're associated with, whether it be the grounds out here, the school here, or the river, that's sacred ground. That means a lot.
Yeah, I think that sacredness is realizing who God is for all mankind. We look at the water as a living entity. Mm-hmm. We look at the trees as a living entity. And it's all spiritualism. Mm-hmm. But the thing of it is seeing God in all of the world and realizing your place under God. realizing the love and the beauty that he has in life for all of us, giving him credit for the beautiful world that he's made.
Greg, you mentioned something off camera when you and I were chatting, is that there's somebody that you were talking about that you were speaking of his experience on the river.
Yes.
In a canoe, and I recall this is something you mentioned, it just stuck with me, is that you said that person looked at you and said, you asked them apparently, I think the conversation was, how did you enjoy,
Yes.
the river? And they said, just very focused and real serious, they found themselves. That to me was a powerful moment.
Yes. Nature is a teacher. Nature is very spiritual. As we went down and with a lot of our young people, and I love this tourism thing because I get to hear the stories of the experiences of all that goes down the river. And it's all very similar. It seems that the river is a good place to talk to God about your problems, about who you are. That one young man that we talked about, he made all of the efforts that Philip and I and the tribe have made down in that river worthwhile. When he said to me, and I said, it was the dead of winter. It was 30-some degrees, and I saw you going down that river. What have you found down there in that river that would make you do that? Mm-hmm. And he looked at me and smiled, and he was a very shy boy at a crossroads in his life. But he said, I found myself.
Wow.
It was a good place for him to talk with his creator. Which direction do you want to go, son? There's two spirits out here. There's good, there's evil. I've been a witness seeing that young man's life being transformed into more loving, more responsible, more personable. And I knew that the calling that our tribe had to take care of that river was worthwhile.
We're coming up on another break, and I don't want to stop this conversation, but we're going to be looking at a piece of artifact that's located right here in this facility and showing people on camera and discussing it. That's part of that environment, but yet we're talking hundreds of years old that folks may not even know exist, number one. And number two, the fact that it's located right here next door to them, they might not be aware of it. So we'll be back in a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We're going to come back and talk about a piece of artifact here in this building that you're going to want to know about, you're going to want to see, and you're probably going to call Greg or somebody and say, can I come by and take a look at that? We'll be back in a moment. Stay tuned.
To get the most out of your electronic devices, you need a strong internet connection and a protected home Wi-Fi network. You need high-speed internet from Star. Star has the fastest, most affordable high-speed internet service available for all your devices. We have no long-term contracts or high-pressure sales. Our service speaks for itself, and switching is hassle-free. We take care of everything with free installation from a local company. High-speed internet from Star. Internet at the speed of life.
Honey, do we pay our bill?
What bill?
The Star Communications bill.
No worries, honey. With Star's paperless billing and automatic draft system, I get a notification sent right to my phone. There's no need to be bothered with those paper statements, and our bill is paid on time every month.
Well, that's easy and convenient.
It sure is, honey.
Honey?
Yes, dear.
The bake.
Oh, right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We've tried to explain quite a bit about Native American Heritage Month, what that means, not only the history, but a lot of the purity of nature that exists with that. And we're in a room now that is part of this facility here on 421 just north of Clinton that a lot of folks may not even know about. Many people have history here because it used to be Sampson Community College. But Greg, the room we're in houses something that we know by you telling us that is a canoe. It appears to be a log. It's got fire burns where it was hollowed out. There's a huge history on this artifact that dates back hundreds of years, and just getting it to this site has a huge story. Tell us about that, and then I'm going to get these guys to kind of tell us how important it is to have this at this facility.
I'm glad to hit on that in talking about the actual presence of the canoe here at the Coharie Tribal Center. So back in 2018, right in the middle of us doing debris removal out of the rivers of Sampson County, a young man found this canoe. It was almost as if it came back to a celebration of us being responsible to Mother Nature, and that we had finally heard the cries of the rivers, that it needed our help. It was all congested. But it's 600 years old, made out of yellow pine. And so it was in such good form for being 600 years old. It was so preserved that many museums around the state would have loved to have displayed it. So we went to battle that it's an indigenous artifact. It was found in the homelands of the Coharie tribe, what we know as the Coharie tribe today, that we would like to bring it home amongst its people. The important thing that happened to cultural resources that we discussed bringing it here is that Mr. John Mintz of Cultural Resources, he sort of admitted his efforts to helping the Coharies get it. And I said, you're going to support our efforts? And he says to me, Greg, he said, it's the right thing to do. You're the indigenous people. This is an indigenous burnout canoe. At that point, it didn't really matter. Well, it did matter whether it came here for its final resting place. It was the acknowledgement of the indigenous people of this area.
This is an interesting piece for me, because when I look at it, I'm guessing here somewhere 20 feet. It's a pretty long object, and I look at it and I think this was a lot about the way people during that period of time, as Greg pointed out, 600 years ago. This was not only transportation, but it was the way they gathered food with fishing. A lot of that was going on. Tell us a little bit about that and how it relates to what you're doing now with trying to clear the Coharie out so people can literally travel on it.
Yeah, this canoe is a little over 19 feet, and it's one that, as Greg mentioned, is in really good shape, and was used by the native folks or native Indians back in those days 600 years ago to either cross the river, to navigate down the river, for fishing, for transporting. And so it had a great significance and gives us a good indication. I think Greg hit it on the head though. When this canoe was found, it was the river reaching back to the tribe saying, hey, you've done a good job. I'm going to provide you something or give you something to help you along. And so getting it here, even though it was a struggle, Greg mentioned that the challenges that we were faced in getting it here to avert it from going to other places was a lot of work, and it came here. Greg mentioned the comments from the doctor from up at the Cultural Center. There was 3 fellows that helped bring the canoe into the room here, and they were standing over near the door there. And I'll never forget, when the canoe was here, we were all standing around. They had tears in their eyes and they were crying. And I think someone asked them, are y'all okay? And one of them said, well, it's home. That means a lot, that it's coming back. And we've talked about sacred ground. We've talked about a lot of spiritual aspects and all. But that spirit was in that man that was here, who had never been here before. He could feel what we feel when we have something like this that's in our presence, that belongs to us, that's here for people to enjoy. And I think when people come and they see the canoe, they can feel that spirit too. And all of that circles back to our understanding and our dealings with the out of doors, with the environment and all. I mentioned to you earlier about a book. It's called The Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. That's a really good book for people to read to understand the importance of kids being outside. We all were raised outside. That's the Indian way. We all have a strong connection with the environment, with the out of doors. And that gives us some connection to that spirit that is available for those who open their hearts, can feel it, open their hearts to accept it, and let it help in guiding their lives. So this canoe is a strong symbol of a lot of good things for Indians as a whole, but particularly for the Coharie people.
I think it's interesting the way you brought that out, because this is more than just an artifact. This is something that is part of that whole indigenous relationship over time. Brad, when I think about that, I'm standing here thinking as Philip is talking, I don't know whether you have or whether you will, but I could see some kind of music coming out of this one piece of wood here.
Yeah, we have canoe songs. We do have canoe songs that's been written for the tribe, so we will be singing those here in the near future. But yeah, there's a whole lot of feelings that could come out of this canoe, and when you write songs and stuff like that, we don't write them. The Creator gives them to us. You may be thinking about a person, or you may be thinking about a situation, and that song is the prayer for that person or that situation. So you put that song on the drum, and then you and all your brothers, like me and Corey sung for you earlier, but there's 15 of us around one drum. It's loud and it's powerful.
And it almost causes your mind to make you want to travel back to that period of time and feel that experience that was being felt by those people that actually used this artifact. 600 years ago, Craig, and this is so important. I think the obvious question here, how does people, if they want to come and look at it, how does a school that want to bring children to come and look at it, do they call, give us some contact information?
They can call the center, or we have an open door policy. This is a place for information delivery. We want folks to understand what we're all about. This is for the public. It's not just a tribal thing. Our museum, our activities here, the information that we would love to share with the public, everyone is welcome here.
The art form that I have seen, and you have rooms of unbelievable art and artifacts, it's amazing for teachers that are looking at history lessons, for teacher that is looking at a wholesome kind of environment to teach folks what they are and how they got here and how we relate to each other. That experience exists in this facility. Philip, that's something I know that you've traveled a lot with USDA in your career. Is that something we need to expand on more?
I think so. It's you talked about that experience of reconnecting, but this school has a spirit in it. That this is probably one of the oldest schools that's still standing and still serving as a function in the community, and that is the center for the Coharie people. Yes, that has a strong connection that anyone coming in here, I think, and I might be mistaken, can feel when they come in. Just like when people travel with us down the river. When they get into the kayak, they get in the river, they can feel a connection to the earth, to the spirit that we feel when we travel down the river regardless. So yeah, we have a lot to share that Greg has made available for folks to be able to enjoy and to participate in.
One of the things I think is important as we kind of go to a close here is that they can reach either just simply drive up, knock on the door. We're going to be putting a phone number up on the screen for folks on the TV side that they can reach out and call. They can also look at the number of tribes, and there's of course 8 recognized tribes in North Carolina. The Coharie is one of those tribes. It's significantly important to, I think, Greg and you and I have talked a bit off camera about this, but folks to understand that heritage goes back way further than the Revolutionary War. This is the heritage of this continent. I want to thank you guys for inviting us in and allowing us to be your guest at this facility to do this show, and certainly we look forward to doing some things in the future. Philip and I have talked about a number of things, particularly with trying to clean out the Coharie River that we might get some shots on. So again, this has been an experience. Hopefully folks, as you watch today, it's been an experience for you to better understand what's happening, not only in the world through your eyes, but in the eyes of people and their ancestors that were here many centuries before a lot of us ever got here, and understand the dynamic importance of the environment. And as always, as we go to close, we encourage you to continue to watch us, share the information, and we look forward to seeing you again right here on WCLE and Star Communications Channel 16. And as always, may God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of We Should Know with host J.W. Simmons. If you have a question, comment, or suggestion regarding this or any episode, please send your emails to weshouldknowedu@gmail.com. And remember to tune in every Tuesday at 2:30 for another informative episode of We Should Know.